Good evening, good night, and welcome to Mindful Live 521. I am your host, your co-host some nights, but your host tonight, Nathan Springer. Thank you for joining in. It is presently 10:40, a really late start in the beautiful island of the Twin Island Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. It is the third day in August. Did you see China's new arsenal? No, I did not. I did not see China's new arsenal. What is in China's new arsenal? Did they release something? Or are you talking about their military parade where they showed off some of that? I see, yes. I saw some snippets from their military parade. Not a lot. Robot dogs and stuff. Yeah, well, robot dogs been out here for a while, And I heard somebody make this point, and I kind of agree with it to some extent. Someone was saying that we're limiting our robotics by attempting to anthropomorphize it, trying to make robots that look like humans, and in fact robots that look like dogs also. We make machines, the shape we make machines to suit their function. Form follows function, so a car isn't made like a human being. It wouldn't make sense to attempt to make a machine to transport humans and make 4 humans that are going to lift you up and carry you. That just might not be the ideal thing. So I think some of the creations in the robotics world, trying to recreate dogs and animals and humans and stuff, may limit the robotics to some extent. Speaking of the sea tankers, and they can drive on land. Yikes! Yikes. Once you're on the inside though, short recess there. Once you're on the inside, make sure you hit that like button, double tap the screen over there on TikTok. Hit the like if you are viewing this on YouTube. Hit that like button, drop a comment, tell me what you think. Make sure you are subscribed. Let's get those subscribers numbers going up. Think some were deployed to Venezuela. Oh, you think so? I just don't feel like China is going to risk it for Venezuela. I just don't feel like it. I don't think China is going to risk their manpower and their technology on Venezuela. I don't buy it. I think Venezuela may stand mostly alone. They may get some help with supplies with some of the older tech, but I don't think China would be sending their premium, tip-top, cutting-edge technology out to Venezuela. They're not going to do that to me. I just don't see that happening. And the United States would love if China would be willing to start wasting resources in a black hole over in Venezuela, as many of those warmongers in the United States spoke of liking what Ukraine is doing to Russia. For many of those American military folk, for those really pro-US military, pro-military industrial complex kind of people, they are very happy with what is going on in Ukraine and Russia, because what that is doing is Russia is basically just grinding themselves away. Yes, Ukrainians are dying by the thousands, but those people don't care. If they are looking to weaken Russia, well, they are slowly weakening Russia. Russia's stockpile of arms and ammunition would be depleting. Their reserve of troops would be depleting. It's all a war game to some people. I consider that to be an abominable kind of thought, that I'm weakening my opponent by just killing young men repeatedly for months, for years, and then that sounds like an evil thing. But nonetheless, there are some people who view those things in that light. And some of them would love nothing more than for China to start to waste resources attempting to keep Maduro in place. For all you know, that might be their mission. Who knows? Let's jump into some stories here. Trump defends deadly strike on Venezuelan gang. Rubio says it will happen again. Yikes. President Donald Trump on Wednesday justified the lethal military strike that his administration said was carried out a day earlier against the Venezuelan gang as a necessary effort by the United States to send an unmistakable message to Latin American cartels. Asked why the military did not instead interdict the vessel and capture those on board, Trump said the operations would cause drug smugglers to think twice about trying to move drugs into the U.S. And I've seen multiple people question this. I believe it was Larry Lalla brought up this question that neither in Trinidad nor in the United States, the punishment legally on the law books, the punishment for drug smuggling, for drug running, is not death. How do we know it actually had drugs or people? We don't know. There's no how do we know anything? How do we know anything out of any war theater? How do we know anything? It's all believing what is being told to us. There's no way to know many of these things. But that's kind of irrelevant to what we're speaking on here. People were asking, where is this law? This isn't the nature of the legal system in both the United States and Trinidad and Tobago. You must first prosecute someone, find them guilty, and then the punishment could come afterwards. How can you just summarily execute someone that you say is guilty of drug smuggling? How does that work legally? And the thing is, I think that's where the little identification of those cartels as terrorist organizations came in. That's why they did that in the first place. So these are now terrorists who you can drone strike or tomahawk missile from a distance without having to get in to arrest them and prove anything. You are in a war on terrorists. Exactly, they are not a law enforcement unit. They are not there to carry people to court. That's not their role. And they are not interested in doing that. And I think I'd have to do a short video on this, because I think the world itself is kind of dividing up into people who care about the laws and human rights of issues, and people who are more pragmatic, as in looking for what would give us the end we want. What's his name again? Out there in El Salvador, the El Salvadoran president. There are those who are looking at that as an ideal. They're looking at El Salvador as an ideal where, okay, who cares about their civil rights? These people are torturing and tormenting our society, so we will take them, get rid of them, and live happily ever after. Trump is doing it in the United States as pertaining to immigration. We don't care about the cries and who is worried about what and who has what where. We don't want these people in our country. We're taking them up and getting them out. If we have to send them to Uganda, to El Salvador, to any other country, so be it. We're getting rid of them. We see it even here in Trinidad and Tobago. Right now, our TTPS is, we're running on state of emergency powers since January, basically. Since January, we've basically been in a state of emergency. And they are saying that it's because our crime situation is out of control, which it is. And they need these extra powers to get it under control. The prison officer who is currently in prison, prison officer presses for faster review of SOE detention. The acting assistant superintendent of prisons detained under the ongoing state of emergency is pressing for an earlier hearing of his preventative detention order, insisting he is innocent and has no links to gang activity. He's pushing for the date to be brought forward, arguing, his attorney is arguing that her client's detention is both unlawful and disproportionate. A man is sitting in jail, not charged with a crime, not ordered by any court that he cannot access bail. She said the detention amounted to an abuse of power, noting that the Minister of Homeland Security had already disclosed the grounds for the order. In her appeal for an earlier date, Primus argued that the original allegations underpinning the order were invalid and untrue. She said the Commissioner of Police already stated that the threat that triggered the SOE has been neutralized. Yet, her client is being held behind bars with no charges. That's a good point. If the police are saying they have neutralized the threat that triggered the SOE, how come you're still holding and charging people under these SOE powers? And isn't the threat neutralized already? And the point his lawyer is making here is this is outside the realm of regular human rights, of regular judicial rights and how you treat with a citizen of a country. How do you mean you have taken this man? He is not free to leave, but he has not been officially charged. He has not been brought before the courts. He hasn't been found guilty of anything. He hasn't been assessed if he can get bail, but you're saying basically you're imprisoning him. You're imprisoning him, and there's nothing he can do about it. Well, that's along the same lines that we were talking about. The pragmatists, they aren't looking for what the law says per se. They are looking for what we need to do to get it done. And here's the reality. Here's the actual reality of it. The idea of pragmatism is kind of like the ends justify the means. If the end is good, it would justify the means. That's the sad reality. If the US does their action out there in the Southern Caribbean, and we see a severe dip in drug activity, human trafficking, gun running in the Caribbean, even the naysayers, what you gonna see? If the government takes all of these people's rights, lock up a set of people in Tetran barracks and all of this kind of kicks, but come end of year, our murder rate is really gone. There aren't any more murders. There are just a few crimes straggling around. Then people would be like, well, fine. I don't mind the SOE. I don't mind that you captured these people without their rights. And I think that's a direction that much of the world is going along with. The ends justify the means. Super pragmatism. And here's the thing. The idea of the legal system being on top. The idea of the legal system being on top is that the means... it's not that the means justify the ends, but the means determine the ends. That's the idea of the legal system. We have seen and we look out at life and we say that the means determine the end. So regardless of what we want the end to be, we have to make sure that the means we go through to get there are above board and within a certain rule framework. Grand. That's the legal, law-abiding side. The pragmatic side says, well, if that legal framework isn't giving us the end that we want, forget about the laws, let's go to what gives us the end. And the problem that the legal arguers are going to find, the problem that those arguing for legal justifications and human rights and all of those, the problem they are going to bounce up with is if the means of the legal system you currently have don't give the end we want. If the current judicial system in Trinidad and Tobago keeps giving us 600 plus murders, skyrocketing home invasions, violence in the streets, people would start to say, well, maybe those judicial means aren't making sense. And they would be much more okay with bending those judicial means. If Trinidad was a very safe, peaceful place, police killings would have been front page news. We would have been hounding those officers continually. But when there are murders every day in Trinidad and Tobago, it's much less worrisome when police take out someone. Because you're like, it seems like this has to be done to get a hold of the thing. Venezuelan official, U.S. naval strike video likely AI generated. Venezuelan Minister of Communication and Information, Freddy Nanez, has suggested that a video released by the White House yesterday showing a naval attack on what the U.S. deemed a drug-carrying boat coming out of Venezuela was artificial intelligence generated. The video depicting a lead, we know what the video depicted. In a post to his truth, we know what he said. In a post to his social media yesterday morning, Nanez questioned the authenticity of the video, which was shared via official U.S. platforms in the aftermath of the announcement. Referring to U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, he claimed President Trump was being lied to. He purported that the video was uploaded to Google's AI Gemini, which he said indicated that it was very likely created using artificial intelligence. The video shows a ship being attacked and then explodes in a way that looks like a simplified, almost cartoons animation rather than a realistic depiction of an explosion. The video contains motion artifacts and a lack of realistic details, something common in AI generated videos. Water in particular looks very stylized and unnatural. The thing is, other people uploaded it and that's not exactly true. What is your opinion on the Trini lawyer in America blocking the return of those non-nationals? The Trini judge, you mean? I didn't analyze the legal merits of the case, so I don't know whether she is sound legally. What I do know, however, is if in Trinidad and Tobago, a Venezuelan migrant somehow manages to enter into our judicial system, and then a Venezuelan migrant rules on a case involving other Venezuelan illegal migrants and say that we are not allowed to deport those illegal Venezuelan migrants in Trinidad and Tobago, I can assure you we would be saying a lot worse things than are being said about that Trinidadian born US judge. Like, I understand where people come from when they are outraged by such things. It feels insulting to have a foreigner tell me how many foreigners I'm supposed to take in my land. Of course that feels weird. No Trinidadian liked it when somebody sued us and Venezuelan illegal migrants were winning millions of dollars from us. Like, that doesn't feel right. I understand why people think so. I don't think the video was AI. I don't know what's in it for the US to do AI. I don't doubt that the US will in fact bomb a vessel. I don't doubt that they have the ability and the willingness and mindset to do just that. So I don't know why it would be AI. And it seems a bit grasping at straws. Like, here's some advice. When you want to be anti a certain group, a certain point, a certain idea, stick to one main cause. If you're saying there were children and women on board and it's not drugs, they just killed children and women on board, well then you can't say it was children and women and it was AI at the same time. Those things don't go together. But here's the thing with the judge, right? Those children's parents wanted them back and she blocked it. Yes, As far as I know, that's the case. I don't know the details of all the legal affairs of the case, but as far as I know, that's the case. And that's something that I always found ridiculous. The whole immigration thing in the US over the last few years was ridiculous. It indeed was ridiculous. And many people speaking about bleeding hearts don't understand the reality of those situations. They're talking about unaccompanied minors. Do you know what an unaccompanied minor illegally migrating to your country is? That is insane. You do not want those things to happen. That's a recipe for abuse. Who wants that? And these people are trying to make it seem like the kind thing is to encourage unaccompanied children. Unaccompanied. They are coming by themselves. Children. Illegally being smuggled. Like, oh gosh, come on, give us a chance. And I don't see something wrong with sending those children back to the lands of their birth. That seems like the most practical solution for that. Sending them back to where they were born, where you could find a record of who their family might be, instead of some random over there picking up children. It's insane. They were talking about 300,000 children missing. Then you have an Epstein field. You would always have that one. But yeah, it's insane. I think that is ridiculous. I really do think that's ridiculous. The situation right now in Trinidad and Tobago, the situation of facilitating an increased number of Venezuelan migrants in Trinidad and Tobago is increasing the facilitation of abuse, of trafficking, of young girls in trafficking. It's not a rare thing for us to hear about a raid on some place here and there, and they take in 25 illegal Venezuelan women. And oftentimes you read the ages, and sometimes it's as low as 14 years old. Venezuelan girls, sometimes locked and imprisoned in homes and houses all about Trinidad and Tobago. You don't want to encourage that. That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing. But as we are saying on the AI matter, I don't think it's AI. Something very interesting I'm looking at in this whole conflict, though, is it seems like Venezuela is attempting to stay on Trump's good side. And this is what I was talking about earlier yesterday, when I was talking about, and even last week, when I was talking about how our Prime Minister is speaking in this whole situation. There are ways you can speak that makes it clear who you still want to be friends with. They aren't really lambasting Trump. If you look at even the AI accusation here, what they're saying is Marco Rubio is lying to Trump, that Trump is doing this in honesty. You know, a lot of Americans saying it's unjust, those saying what's unjust. And a lot of Americans are anti-America. It's a strange thing. It's a very strange thing. A lot of Americans are anti-America. That's why I don't blame. It's even more strange when you look at it and you see so many of those anti-American Americans that are immigrants. Like the whole Ilhan Omar business, I find that to be such a ridiculous prospect. Some person from another country comes to my country, comes into my parliament and is squarely faced against my people. That seems like an insane thing to me. And that's why if you look at the people who are more soundly citizens, if you will, the people who have their family longer linked to a place, and look where they vote, you often see they go against what the newcomers choose. It's not the same thing. They have different views. The bombing of the boat. Yes, some Americans would be against the bombing of the boat. They are anti-war Americans, so that's not shocking. There are some Americans who hate Trump. There are lots of Americans who hate Trump. And anything the man does, they will be against it. So, yes, AP, it's ridiculous. And I don't like to hear Trinidadians speak against the anti-immigrant Americans, because I know Trinis are very anti-immigrant. Trinis are more xenophobic than Americans. It's not even close. You sit and listen to Trinis talk about them Venice and them Jamaicans and them Africans and them Guyanese. It's kind of the natural way cultures go. They have some insularity to it. But our Prime Minister is saying also, people, that we have no cause to worry about her ministers being at CPL matches, although their lives were at risk, because they have all of that under control. I think secretly Trinis hate all this. PM dismisses PNM concern over ministers at CPL matches. You all don't worry about those things, man. Don't worry about those things. You're worried about the wrong issues. Let's dive into some education out here. Government to launch coding academies, says Padarath. Government initiatives. The government will soon launch its coding academy starting in Couva South. Public Utilities Minister Barry Padarath, the Member of Parliament for Couva South, made the announcement during a book grant distribution exercise in his constituency on Wednesday. He said the initiative, which is being carried out in partnership with TSTT, will eventually expand across Trinidad and Tobago. We are looking at 5 establishing these technology centers and coding academies. A pilot project headed by TSTT and partnering with constituencies, Minister Padarath said. He added that the aim is to bring coding programs into all schools. This is a disparity right now, particularly with the prestige schools, or what are considered as prestige schools, for robotics and coding and so on to be part of their curriculum. However, many of these government schools do not have that, and the children at government schools are at a disadvantage, he explained. The minister said the Ministry of Public Utilities would collaborate with the Ministry of Education and the private sector on the initiative. At the event, 200 children received book grants sponsored by members of the Couva South business community. Skyboss says, so drug smugglers in Veni knows all U.S. warships out in southern Caribbean seas and still went out. Yes, that is not a hard thing to imagine. It is not. Even in Trinidad, men know that there's a state of emergency and the police are looking for them, and they still go out too. Like, these people are by definition risk takers. They maybe weren't aware that the US would be shooting the vessels out. Like, I don't understand why that's a hard thing to see as a possibility. I see that as a very easy possibility. There are people that cross the ocean on a raft knowing there's a high probability that they may drown. There are people that hide away and tuck away on the wheel in a wheel well of a plane, where there is a high chance they will freeze and die. The point I made yesterday, drug smugglers smuggling by swallowing a pellet yay big, that they have to walk through a scanner in the airport with. And if they're caught, they could have life in prison. And if the package ruptures, they could be dead. Yet still, there are many people who risk it for the biscuit. So the idea of drug smugglers risking it isn't unheard of. It isn't something that is outside the realm of possibility to me. That seems well within the realm of possibility. I can believe that it was a drug smuggling boat. I can believe that the US did indeed blow it up. Those things are believable. And according to what Trump says, the idea of that one is to make sure you let the risk takers know this isn't a risk worth taking. So yeah, that ship took the risk, but the next ones might not. We'll see, you know. I think the Caribbean will see. We will see if what the US is doing there is what they're saying they're doing. If they indeed are interrupting drug routes, we will see the effects in Trinidad and Tobago in not a very long time. If we want to look, we will see those effects. Another bit of government policy that has me a bit excited, dude. Let's read this last one before I dive out tonight. Not too long one tonight. Last one. The Trade Ministry considering changes to used vehicle import rules. To come from Veni, you don't have to pass through international waters. That's the way you phrase that. Not that you don't have to. So you could come straight across the Gulf. But then if you're coming straight across the Gulf, our radar is supposed to pick you up very clearly. Supposed to. And I'm pretty sure that the US radar capabilities would see them even in our Gulf. So if they are about what they are about, and Trinidad is an ally in their drug fight, they would be able to say, hey, guys, there's a ship leaving Tucupita heading for Cedras. Do something about it. So as I said, if they are doing what they say they're doing, we're supposed to see some kind of effect. But yeah, our trade ministry is considering changes to used vehicle import rules. This was one of the big things that the PNM did to lock up the market and make sure you go spend the money by the big boys. The parliamentary secretary in the Ministry of Trade says the cabinet is actively considering a proposal to extend the age limit for imported foreign used vehicles from 3 years to 8 years. Speaking with Guardian Media yesterday, Dr. Colin Neil Gosain said the cabinet note is not yet finalized, but discussions have been ongoing. There are still key elements that must be reviewed, including input from stakeholders like the Trinidad and Tobago Automotive Dealers Association, particularly on matters such as electric and hybrid vehicles, he said. Gosain added that once finalized, the move should bring relief to families and individuals who want to own a reliable car but are currently priced out of the market. By allowing the import of slightly older but still dependable vehicles, consumers could see savings of $30,000 to $50,000 on each purchase. He said the policy would benefit both consumers and business owners by restoring quotas and creating more flexibility in the age limit. We can undo the damage of the previous policy that cut dealers' allocations by 30%. That policy severely crippled small and medium-sized enterprises in the automotive sector. The new framework would support local businesses while giving consumers a much wider range of affordable choices. I love this. This was economic policy was one of the things I hated most about the PNM. What seemed to me like their attempts to lock us all in on their friends' businesses. Boo says they don't have a traffic problem, no more cars. The number of cars is not what is causing our traffic problem. Allowing people to get a cheaper vehicle isn't going to increase the traffic problem. That's not going to increase our traffic problem. It's just going to allow more people to get into the market. It's not increasing the traffic problem. I hate that idea of the PNM. Many car businesses shut down. And if you have less businesses in it, you have less competition. Boo says it's not going to help with what the traffic situation, you mean? Well, the amount of cars coming in shouldn't be what helps your traffic situation. Your traffic situation has to do with road management and time management of the country. That's not about the number of cars you get in. I hate the idea of cutting the number of cars people are allowed to get to try and control traffic. That is ridiculous. I think that's ridiculous. Don't control my freedom because you have bad road management. That's a bad idea to me. And then in the manner it controls freedom, what it really does is it punishes poorer people. So the poorer people can't afford their own transport, so now they must spend more. And listen, poverty costs. If you have to travel, your footwear is going to get more wear and tear. Your clothing is going to get more wear and tear. It's going to be more difficult to get to and from jobs. You're going to have less job opportunities. It costs all around. A little control ain't bad. You could afford a car currently, boo, eh? That's the thing. You currently afford a car. That's the issue. And then on top of the pricing the poorer people out of the consumption side, they kicked the smaller businesses out of the business side. Because I can't bring in 3 vehicles and sell it now and have a business. I am squeezed out. So we have people like Boo endorsing Coleman these wicked Coleman and these wicked policies, talking about traffic, and let's not have too much traffic on the road. And Coleman them telling us that, you know, these big engines are polluting the road. Just like Boo, the big engines are polluting the road and the traffic, while each one of their family members has their own private vehicle with a big engine. And the mama guying you who trying to get one vehicle to carry all of your family, telling you, nah, you can't get a car, it has too much traffic on the road. And then all of these businesses, you go and look in their yard, go look at their stockpile of cars. The Siri Ram brothers, the whole yard overflowing with cars. They don't have enough place to stock all the cars they're buying, and they don't have to worry because everybody have to come by me to buy because P&M shut those doors. They shut those doors, so you have to come back here. You have to come back here and buy it on terms. So now it's not only just the smaller amount of big businesses making more money, but the banks catch you too. Because when you could have save up and get a half and half credit union loan, a credit union loan based on your shares, and that's how you get your cheap foreign used car, no, you have to go for new and take out a full bank loan and let them sit down like a leech on your salary now, sucking your salary. P&M. And the P&M endorsers like, yeah boy, that's saving on traffic, boy. Not noticing that we still sitting down in a month worth of traffic every year. But no boy, you're working for traffic and what they're doing is to help traffic, boy. And you haven't looked out at the nation's roads and see the traffic is in the same situation. Did it indeed help the traffic? Did the traffic drop since P&M started locking people out of the automobile market in 2015? Did we have that decrease in traffic? Give me a chance. Ease me up now, man. Allow people their freedoms. And allowing people their freedoms is increasing the economic market. That's what that is doing. You're increasing the ability for people to function inside of the economy and people to enter inside and start doing resourceful things. I am 100% for this. Allow the competition back inside of the used car market. Bring back the competition inside of the cement market. We need that competition. Yeah, well, why you think those cheaper Chinese manufacturers could start to flood the market too, because foreign used were no longer an option. It's hard to find a foreign used within the age limit. So then now it makes sense, forget about that, buy cheap Chinese new and bring it in. If that changes, that will be lovely. That will be lovely. Back to a foreign use roll on, roll off, $30,000. Why not? And what would that do to the local used market? Very likely that might start to drop the prices on even the local used market. People selling the Almera for $30,000. If someone is bringing in a foreign used roll on, roll off something for $30,000, you could no longer sell your local used beat up Almera for the same $30,000 just because you're throwing a yellow fog light on it. Now those Almeras might have to drop 20 or lower. Again, encouraging people to enter into that market, allowing more people the ability to move around. I like that idea. And this was one of the things, this and these style of policies, this change in direction in policies, these were some of the things I was looking forward to on that change from a PNM administration. Trinigil says, I want to see they raise the cap of the 14,000 and the 2% for homes through TTMB due to inflation. They might. They might. I hope they do. I hope they do. I hope almost all of those policies that kind of locked people into lower middle class, like that seems to be like the PNM legacy. Like the PNM legacy is they want to bring you out of poverty, but they want to lock you into lower middle class. They wish that you stay in lower middle class. And maybe the extremely high performers, they let every now and again, they let some of them slip through into upper middle class, into some of the upper echelons through the education system. But by and large, the system that the PNM wants is the vast majority of the country locked into lower middle class renters. Middle class is out, rich versus poor. No. I think they don't want you poor. I think they want you lower middle class. Lower middle class is something. I don't think it's out, but it's not exactly middle class, and it's certainly not upper middle class. Just at that lower middle class level where you can pay your bills. Yeah, boy, we good, Darius. Where you can pay your bills, but you don't have enough capital left over to start gaining. By the time you pay your bills, you have a little recreation, a little entertainment for the month, everything eat up and chew up. You don't have anything left to do a side investment and a side delivery. You don't have anything for that. That's what they want. They want by the time the month finish, all your salary done. You ain't living a miserable life. You're comfortable. The bus dropping you to and from work. You get a government rental place. You maybe, when you afford your first car, it's through the government salary you're getting. So the government salary going into the bank, and the bank taking out all the money they need from the loan. So that bust up your whole thing with your little vessel. Your vessel bust up your whole salary. And by the time you pay the rent and you buy a little food, vessel, rent and food, and money done. Money done. And that seemed like what they like. They like clerk. Is clerk one you call those in the government? They like clerk ones. Regiment men. Servicemen. You see that kind of life, that area in life, where You live, you get your Elantra, you dress good and thing, but you don't really own much by the time you're done. Maybe a HDC home, maybe you get an HDC home by the time you reach retirement. Maybe. And that seemed to me to be what the PNM intended for everyone. I don't like that idea. I don't like it. I prefer people are able to chart their course. If I put in more effort, I get out more out of it. That's what I'd prefer. That's why I like things like this. Allow people in. Like, allowing more people access to vehicles, that's not a negative. That's not why our traffic situation is as bad as it is. I'm sorry, I don't buy that. I do not buy that a bit. All right, people, that's all I have for now. I hope you are educated, informed, or entertained. I am Nathan Springer. This has been the Mindful Live Show. Thank you for being here with me. Thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it. I hope you tune in for the next one. Tomorrow is Thursday. We're talking tomorrow, people. If you want to come discuss, if you want to come argue with me, if you feel like you could take me down in a debate, you want to debate something, man, jump in and jump out. You know how it goes. PNM and UNC have to go. Good luck with that. Well, yeah, if you want to argue with me, jump in tomorrow. Jump in tomorrow, we can argue it out. Laters, people. Glad you all joined me. Be mindful, not mindless. I'm out. Peace. Hold it down.